Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving deep, taking a tour of the incredible microscopic factories that literally build every single living thing. We're talking about cells.
So just think about that for a second. Your body as 30 trillion tiny factories? Well, it's not really a what if, because in a very real way, it is. That factory analogy, it's probably the best way to get our heads around the unbelievably complex world inside a single cell. I mean, each one is its own little world, right? It's taking in raw materials, it's manufacturing products, and it's even generating its own power.
Okay, so before we get into the different types of factories, let's talk about the basics. There are 4 things that pretty much every single cell on the planet has in common. These are like the fundamental blueprints, the non-negotiables.
And here they are. This really gets to the shared foundation of all life. I mean, think about it. From the simplest little bacterium all the way to the cells that make up you and me, these 4 parts are always there. You got the cell membrane. That's the factory walls and security gate. You've got the genetic material, your DNA. That's the head office with all the master blueprints. Then you have ribosomes. These are the actual machines on the floor, building everything. And finally, the cytoplasm. That's the factory floor itself, the jelly-like stuff where all the action happens.
All right, now let's get into our first big comparison. When it comes to building life, nature basically uses 2 main factory designs. You've got the simple, open-plan workshop, that's your prokaryotic cell, and then you have the complex, super-organized factory with all kinds of different departments, and that's the eukaryotic cell.
Okay, so when you look at these 2 side by side, the real game-changing difference is organization. It's all about compartments. Prokaryotic cells are super efficient, but they're simple. Their DNA just kind of floats around in a messy region called the nucleoid. There are no internal walls or departments. Eukaryotic cells, totally different story. They're all about creating specialized departments using internal membranes. We call these organelles, and the most important one is the true nucleus, which acts like a secure vault for all that precious DNA.
So, for the rest of this tour, we're going to focus on that more complex model, the eukaryotic factory. So, grab your hard hats, let's go inside and meet the department heads, shall we? We'll see how all these different compartments work. All right, first stop, the head office, the control center, the nucleus. Now this thing isn't just a passive box for DNA. Oh no, it is an active command hub. It's so important that it's surrounded by a double membrane, the nuclear envelope, which has these tiny little pores that work just like security checkpoints, meticulously controlling everything that goes in and out.
Okay, moving on from the head office, we come to the main factory floor. This is the endoplasmic reticulum, or just ER for short. Think of it as this huge, sprawling assembly line, a massive network of folded membranes where all the production happens. And what's cool is that this assembly line actually has 2 different sections, depending on what's being built. So, on one side, you have the rough ER. And it's called rough for a pretty simple reason. It's literally studded with those ribosomes, the little protein building machines we talked about. This is where the heavy-duty protein synthesis happens. Then you have the smooth ER. No ribosomes, so it's smooth. Its job is totally different. It's in charge of making lipids or fats, detoxifying nasty poisons, and storing really important stuff like calcium. And depending on what a cell does, it'll have a different mix of rough and smooth ER. So after a product is made on the ER assembly line, where does it go? It goes to the Golgi apparatus. This is basically the factory's shipping department. Or maybe a better analogy is like an Amazon fulfillment center. It gets the raw products from the ER, it modifies them, puts on the finishing touches, sorts them, and then packages them up to be shipped out.
And this whole process is incredibly organized. It's not just random. Check it out. Products arrive from the ER in these little transport bubbles called vesicles. Then they move through this stack of what look like flattened pancakes. Those are called cisternae. And as they travel from one pancake to the next, they get modified. And at the very end, they're packaged into brand new vesicles, all boxed up with a shipping label for their final destination. This whole distribution system is absolutely crucial for everything.
Okay, obviously no factory can run without power, right? So say hello to the mitochondria. These are the power plants. They are constantly working, taking fuel like sugar and converting it into the energy that powers the entire cell. But here is the truly mind-blowing part. Mitochondria have their own DNA and their own ribosomes. Think about what that means. The leading theory is that billions of years ago, these guys were their own separate, free-living organisms. They got swallowed up by a bigger cell, and instead of being digested, they started a partnership that literally powers all complex life as we know it today. Just wow.
So we've toured the main departments that are in most eukaryotic factories. But now let's look at two specialized models. We've got the solar-powered fortress, that's the plant cell. And then we've got the flexible, dynamic model, the animal cell.
And looking at them side by side really drives home that classic biological principle. Structure dictates function. It makes perfect sense, right? Plants need to be rigid and stand up to gravity, so they build a strong cell wall. They're stationary, so they need to make their own food. Bam, they have chloroplasts. They also have that huge central vacuole, which is like a giant water tank for storage and maintaining pressure. Animal cells? We need to move around, so a rigid wall would be terrible. We need that flexibility, so we just have the cell membrane.
And here's a closer look at those solar panels. Chloroplasts are absolute masters of energy conversion. They take sunlight and turn it into food. It's photosynthesis. And guess what? Just like the mitochondria, they have their own separate DNA. Yep, it's the same story. It's believed these were also once their own little independent bacteria that formed an incredible partnership. It's just a detail that completely revolutionizes how you think about the history of life on Earth.
Okay, let's put this all together. To really see how all these departments work in harmony, we're going to follow one single product from start to finish. We're going to track the production of a really important protein your body makes all the time, insulin.
And you can see the whole journey right here. It's a beautiful coordinated dance. First, a ribosome on the rough ER builds the insulin protein. Then a little bubble containing the insulin pinches off and travels to the Golgi. The Golgi does its thing, modifying and packaging the insulin into a neat little vesicle. Then a tiny motor protein literally walks that vesicle along a cellular highway toward the edge of the cell. And finally, the vesicle merges with the cell membrane and releases the finished insulin to the outside. This whole network, the ER, the Golgi, the vesicles, is called the endomembrane system. It is just a stunning display of teamwork, from the initial blueprint all the way to final delivery.
So when you step back and look at the whole picture, from that simple bacterial workshop to the incredibly complex factory of a eukaryotic cell, from the power plant to the shipping department, you just have to be in awe. This cell is an absolute masterpiece of efficiency, of coordination, and just brilliant design.
It really leaves you with a pretty profound question, doesn't it? If the cell is this perfectly tuned factory, what happens when just one machine on that assembly line breaks down? It's a thought that really underscores the delicate, intricate balance inside every living thing. And it's exactly why understanding all this is so incredibly important for the future of medicine and biology. Thanks for joining us on this tour.